Hello everyone, and in this lesson we will see the formatting a string. To format a string, we will use a function which named as printf. In here, s means string, print means printing, and f means formatting. Okay, let's use our function. Let's say s equal to s print f. Right now we need to write the string which we want to print or we want to format. Let's say, let's use single quotes and let's say hello world again. Right now, as you can see, S is a character array. As you can see, the size is 1 by 12. Why? Because I have W after the hello. Okay. But this is the same thing to do this. Hello world. It's the same thing to defining a string or defining a character array. But we will use the format. The why we use this function is formatting. Okay. And before to start the formatting, I want to show you another thing. And if you use as printf with a double quotations like this, right now it will return a string, not a character array. As you can see, 1 by 1 string. Okay, let's format the strings. Let's add some variables in that string. How do we implement a variable in a string or in a character array? It doesn't matter right now. I will say everything is string. Let's say we have a integer or double, a equal 5, and I want to print that a into my string. How will I do that? And to do that, we have format specifiers. In format specifiers, as you can see, we have some specifiers and we have some descriptions in here. If I use C as a specifier, it means I will print a single character. If I use D, I will print decimal notation. I will print a decimal number which is signed. And if you see E, I will print exponential notation of a number. Example in here. If I use a bigger E, then I will print an exponential notation of a number, but this time it will use uppercase E. If I use F, that means I will print a floating number or fixed point notation. What do you say? And another important thing in here, S will print a character array or a string array. And we have X in here, it will print a hexadecimal notation of a number. If you want to use the lowercase, you need to use the lowercase x. If you want to print the uppercase letters, you need to use the uppercase X. Let's try in Matlab. Right now I have created an A. To print that A into my script, I will need to use sprintf. S equal to sprintf. But this time I need to use something else. I need to use a percent structure to use the format specifier. If I write here a percent and a D, which means a decimal, and I can print any variable as a decimal, and I have A. You need to put your variable after a comma. You need to give your variable as another parameter. If you write this, you will see that your string will be 5, but this time it's character array. It's a string, and you can specify, you can add another strings. Let's say A colon space. Right now my string is A colon space and then the variable, the value of the A. And let's try it. For different variables, or let's put another space in here. Let's enter, and let's change my A to an array. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If I use the same as printf function right now, it will print A colon space the value of A and space, but this time I give an array as a parameter, and this time it will repeat the same formatted string for each element of that array. And as you can see in here, A1 space A2 space A3. The spaces are coming from that space. As you can see, after 5 I have another space in here too. Let's print that the values of A in different ways. Right now I have 5 different variables, and let's say the first one is decimal and space. The second one will be floating point, and the third one will be the exponentiation notation, and the fourth one will be hexadecimal notation, and we can add one more, and let's say it the greater X, the uppercase X, which will be an uppercase notation of hexadecimal. Right now you will see that the first one is the decimal notation of number 1, and the second one is the floating point notation of number 2. The third one is the exponentiation notation of number 3. In here, E plus 0, 0 means that 10 over 0. That means 3.0 times 10 over 0. And here this was an lowercase x, and which is hexadecimal notation of number 4, and it doesn't change because 4 is 4 in hexadecimal notation too, and 5 is 5 in hexadecimal notation too. Let's change them. Let's change A4 equal to 54 and A5 equal to 54. And this time if I use my function again, let's change something else because it used number again. Let's use 11 and A4 is equals to 12. This time I will get a letter for hexadecimal notation. Yes, and in here you will see that the hexadecimal notation of 12 with lowercase. In hexadecimal notation, C means 12 and B means 11 and A means 10. This is the hexadecimal notation. But the last one is uppercase. Why? Because I used uppercase X to show this one. And let's try for char. Let's create a char which is age, and let's print that char into my string. I will use the same function again, and I will add that char with a C. This is C because I will adding a char, not because of my variable's name. And I will add it after A. Why? This A gives me a 5 variable. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And I need one more variable for the last one. And I'm giving another one variable for that one. So if I click enter, you will see that at the end of my string I have a char variable and the value is age. And we can also use a char array. If I have, let's change my C with hello world. If I use the same function again, but this time I need to change the specifier in here with S. As you can see, I added a string in here, and for that string I gave that a variable C, which is a char array. For a string, you can give a string variable or a char array. It doesn't matter. And we have seen D, F, E, X, X and S, and also C. But we have some special, not from here, yes, we have some special characters. What are they? For example, you cannot add a single quotation mark, just adding just only one single quotation mark. What I mean? I mean that I cannot write as equal as printf. This is my string or array. I cannot add a single quotation mark here. Right now, here becomes red. That means it will throw an error. So, to add a quotation mark in my string, I need to use double quotation mark. And double quotation mark doesn't mean this one. I need to use 2 times single quotation mark to add single quotation mark to my string. Right now, as you can see, this is my string and I have a quotation mark. I have a single quotation mark in there. And also percent, you cannot use a single percent to add a percent. You need to use double percent character. At the same way, you can't use single backslash to add the backslash in your strings. You need to use double. And there's an alarm. Alarm will run your buzzer if you have, or it won't. If you don't have, it won't, or if you don't have a permission for that, it will not. And there is a new line which is backslash and there is a horizontal tab. It will add a tab, lots of space for your string, which is tab, and we have a vertical tab. It will give a space in vertical, and the others will not be covered in this lesson. And let's try them one by one. If I write here, let's write A, if you remember that. Let's write %d. That means it will write everything in decimal notation. And I want to use a tab after my variable, and I need to give A to here. And as you can see, after each element it uses a tab. In here I have a tab, in here I have another tab, and in here I have another tab. After each value it prints a tab. Because I used an array, that array will run that string in multiple times. It will run it for each element. Okay, let's try it in different way. I want to use s equals to sprintf first element of my array is %d. I don't want to use in here space. I want to use \tab. I want to use tab. And in here I need to give my, right now I want to give my first element of array A1. If I click enter, as you can see in here I have first element of my array, which I wrote that, and after that it used a tab. Okay everyone, there was an error right now, so I start my recording again. I will edit it, and I need to create my array again. That it's 4 is enough. And if I write my function again, right now I said that I want to print first element of my array space column. After that column I want to add a tab with \t, and then I want to print my number. That's cool. And let's use a new line, and I want to use that as equal to sprintf. This time I want to list my all elements in a row, but in a vertical row. Then I can use a new line character, which is \n. But first I want to print my character as a decimal. Then I want to use the new line operator. If I print here A1, it will put as the first element, and after that first element it will add a new line. As you can see, it added a new line, and here is the end of that string. Okay, and to see more clear, I can use a whole array instead of the first element. If I click enter, this time it will repeat this statement, this string, for each of my elements. Right now I have 1 and then new line, 2 and then new line, 3 and then new line, 4 and then new line, and this is the end of my string. If I didn't use and, it will write 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all. And let's use the previous one. This is more clear for us right now. And we have some aligning options. Let's use them. You can define your values, your field width. Let's say I want to print my value in 5 digits. So you can do that. How? You need to use after percent a number, which is right now I want to print my variable in 5 digits. This will be my field width. As you can see right now, it printed my variable in 5 digits. How? My variable was 1. It's not 5 digit, but Matlab filled first 4 character with space. If you don't want to Matlab fill that blank space with spaces, and if you want to Matlab fill that space with zeros, and you can use after percent a 0. If you write a percent 0 5d, it will print that decimal, and that decimal will be 5. That the decimal length will be 5, and the blank positions will be filled with 0. Oops, there's something in here. Yeah. As you can see in here, right now Matlab has filled with zeros the blank positions, and as you can see, my each character has 5 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If one of my values is 3 digit, if I use the same print function again, and this time it will not change. it will print 5 digit, but this time only first 2 digit will be 0. Why? Because only 2 digits are empty for 156. Okay. And if you want to print a floating point, let's use it. If I write here f and I want to remove that 0 here, right now, as you can see, nothing changed. Why? Because in f we need to use a floating point too. I want to use 5.2 in here. If I use it, you will see that in here 2 means after that, in here after that, Matlab will use only 2 digits to print. As you can see, after that I have only 2 digits, which is 0 0 0 0 0 0. And what if, let's change my first element, 1 point and long floating point. Right now the first element is 1.123233 and 234. If I use the same printing function again, and this time you will see that it will only print first 2 digits, not anymore. And if I use my A2 is equals 2.78, let's write like that, and I want to use my function again, but this time there's something. If you look at the second variable, I have 79, but the first 2 digits of my second variable was 78. Why it's written 79? Because it was rounded by Matlab. Why? Because I have 6 after in third floating precision, and then the Matlab rounded that 8 to 9. And if you look here, we put a 5, and this is a filled width again. If you came here and if you count the digits, let's count it, 1 2 3 4 and 5, it limits the field width of my variable. And if any of my variable, let's say 3 is equal, could be something more than 5 digit, and if I use the same function again, right now, as you can see, Matlab can't limit that because my variable has already 5 digits, has already more digits than 5, so Matlab cannot limit my field width to 5 with this variable, for this variable. If we use the same function for integers, for decimals, let's use it. Yes, for decimals right now, it will print 5 digits for each of my elements, but this time it will fill 0 for only 2 digits. And as you can see in here, if you have a 1-digit character, 1-digit number in here, Matlab will fill the rest of it in here just only 1 0 because I have used 2. If I used 3 there, Matlab will fill 2 zeros for each of my element because my all elements have only 1 digits. That's it. Okay, this is how we format a string, how we put variables into a string. And we have a format flags. What are they? They are used for aligning, for justifying. Right now, I didn't use any flag in here. If you can see that after %, I don't have a plus, or I don't have a minus, or I don't have a 0. If I use a plus in here, it will add plus. If I use a minus here, this time there is something different. In here, I didn't use any flag, and it aligned my elements to the right, and they are right justified to the right. But if you use a minus after a %, it will be the left justified. And after this, we have 2 more characters. Why? Because my width is 5. If you use a minus after a %, your result will be left justified. And I have already shown 0. If you use a space, if you use a space in here, and let's use a minus again, it will add a single space before each of elements. And if you put 0 here, if you put 0 here, it will nothing change because I have used a floating point in here. As I show you, if I don't use a floating point for decimals, I need to remove that -2. Yes, this time it will filled by zeros instead of spaces. If I remove that 0 from there, it will use spaces instead of zeros. Okay, that was how we format a string. And how about printing them? This is not printing. This is echo of my variable. And if I use semicolon at the end of that comment, it will not be echoed. Matlab will not echo my variable. Why? Because I used a semicolon there. It's not printed. If I want to print something, I can use another function which named fprintf function. let's say here hello world. As you can see, it's printed in here, hello world. But I need to add something at the end of my string, which is /n. So this time my command window add a new line after my string. In here it didn't add a new line. This is why I write my command after my hello world. And you can use any rule of string formatting in printing. For example, I want to print that printf %5d and \n with my array. Oops, my function name was wrong this time. I wrote that printf a %5d and \n. Right now, if you can see in here, 1 2 3 4 5, my field width is 5, and this string is repeated for each element of A. And this is how you print something into the command window. For example, let's use a script to show it. And let's clear here. Let's say I can use in here printf hello world \n, and I want to use a semicolon there. If I click run, my script will print a hello world here. It's not echo. Let's show an echo here. The echo is like that. Echo prints the variable name and equal. After that equal, it will write the value. It will print the value of my variable. This is echo. But if you don't want the echo, you need to use printf, because you can format your string however you want. And I can say that first element of my array semicolon and %d \n, and I need to give another parameter for that %d, and which it will be a1, because a1 is my first element of my array. So if I run it again, my script will print hello world, and after that it will print first element of my array is 1. That's good. And how about inputs? This is an output of my programs, and how we can use input, how we can give an input to my program, to our program. And it's easy. We need to just use an input function. Let's say x equal to input function, and I can print in here, let's say, give me a variable. Okay, and I will use semicolon at the end of each line, and after that I want to print that variable which I received. Let's say fprintf which it will be, let's say, the x which I received as an input is space percent f, let's say f, and backslash n. You can use anything else, and comma, I need to give another parameter which I want to print. Let's clear here, and then let's run my script. My script ran until my input function. In that input function, as you can see in the command window, is waiting me to enter a variable. Let's say 5.8. Right now, the program continued to run and it executed the rest of my script. Right now, the x which I received as an input is 5.8. There's a mistake. This I should be uppercase. Let's change it. And in here, I need to put a semicolon. Not. I want to put a colon and backslash tab, so I can easily see oops, backslash t doesn't work here. Then I just only put a space. Let's clear here and run it again. Right now it wants any variable. It wants any variable from me. This time I will put 9 and it will print the variable that I put right now as an input is 9. Okay. Right now we can receive inputs and we can print outputs. Let's write a game. Let's clear here and let's code a game which is guess my number. Okay, first of all I need to use a random number because my program will keep a number and the user will try to predict that number, will try to guess that number. To do that, firstly let's use a static number. Let's say my number equals to 5, and then I can get an input, a predict from the user. Let's say your number equals to input, and in here I can say that I don't remember how to write guess correctly. Predict my number. I will get a prediction of user in here, and right now I need to check if it's correct or not. If my number equal to your number, and we need to printf you won and \n. Otherwise, which is else, I can print that you lost and \n. This is an easy program. Let's clear my command window. Let's run my script. Right now, my script wants me to predict a number. If I say here 9 and click enter, it will say you lost. If I run my script again, and if I write 5 here, right now it will say you won. Why? Because I predict correctly. Let's use a random number here. So right now it will be a game, because this time I always know it's 5. But if I change here with rand, I cannot know it's true or not. If I run my script again, each time my number will change. But there is a trick in here. When I run my script, I can see my number right now in workspace. As you can see, it's 0.1576. This is a floating point, but I want to make that game easier. So I want to use only decimals between 1 and 10. So I can multiply here with 9, and I can add 1, and I need to change here to decimal with my integer 8 function. Right now in here we'll produce a random number between 1 and 10, and this function will convert it to integer. If I click run, right now I have my number something random. If I use 6, it will say you lost. Okay, let's run it again. 5. I lost again. Why? Because my number was 8. Okay, and let's change the game. Let's change the returns. If I predict a number bigger than that number, it will say you predict bigger, and if I predict lesser than my number, then program will say you predicted lesser, and I can use that prediction until I find the correct number. So I can use here while operator, and in that while I can use while true, which will run infinite, and in that while I will want a number from user. And then I need to check if my number is equal to your number, then I can say that fprintf you won and break. That break will break the infinite while loop. Why? Because the game is finished in here. I find the number. Else, if your number is less than my number, I need to print that it is too small. Else, I need to print it is too big. And my if condition and my while loop. Let's clear the command window and let's click to run. And it says predict my number. I don't know what is the number, so I can start with 7. It said that it's too big and predict my number again, but as you can see, I forgot a /n from here, \n, so it didn't add a new line in here. And I want to stop my script. Right now. It's still big. I can give 3. It's still big. 2. Yes, it was 2. So let's clear here again and let's run my script again. It says predict my number. I don't know what is the number, so I can start with 5. Wow, at the first attempt I won. And let's run it again. I want to start again from 5. It says it's too small. Then I can give something bigger, which is 7 or which is 9. Yes, I won it again. This is a good part of programming. We made a game. Okay, it's enough to having fun. How about this fprintf actually means that f means a file and print means printing and f means formatting, like sprintf. But this time fprintf prints a file. But if we use it like sprintf, it always prints the inputs into the command window, like we see. To print some file, we need to open a file. Right now, I want to print something into a text file, into a txt file. Okay. To print it, I need to open a file. But first, okay, I didn't add to my presentation. I need to open a file with fopen function. which means file open. And that function gets two parameters. The first one is the name of the file. Let's say myfile.txt. And the second parameter is the permission. What will you do with this file? Will you write? Will you read? Or will you append something at the end of the line? If you want to write something to that file, you need to use W. And if you want to create that file, if that file doesn't exist, you need to use plus, and you need to use T at the end of each permission. This command right now will open a file which named myfile.txt. But if you look to current folder, I don't have myfile.txt. So this plus will create that file in the current folder. Let's look at. If I click enter, yes, it opened a file by creating it. Why? Because it didn't exist, but right now it created it, as you can see in the current folder, myfile.txt. If you double click to it, you can see that it's empty file right now. And as you can see, fopen function returned something, which is a number. This number is ID of that file, of that opened file. And let's close our file. To close the open file, we need to use ID. And what was our ID? Our ID was 3. And let's say 3. Right now, our file is closed. Let's load our scripts in here. And let's write some code in here. I want to open a file. Okay, I need to use fopen. And I need to give a name. I will use myfile.txt again. And I want to write something. And there is some permissions, which is one of them is W, which means write, A, which means append, R, which means read. If you open file with a permission R, you cannot write anything to that file. Okay, right now I want to write something and I want to use plus again. Right now I have my file. I don't need to use plus, but let's keep it in there. And let's don't put a T. Let's look what will happen. And that fopen will return a file ID to me. Then I can store that file ID with a variable which named a file ID. I will use a semicolon in here. I have my file ID and I want to write something into that file. I will use fprintf function. fprintf not equal. I will open the function. Right now we need to give a file ID to print something. Let's give our file ID. and then we can write our string, whatever we want to print into that file. Let's say hello world and \n, and that's it. It will print something into my file. Okay, let's close our file and with my file ID. In that script, I will open a file with writing permissions. After that, I will print something. I will print hello world \n into that file, and then I will close my file. Let's clear here. Let's look at my file txt again. It's empty right now. I close it and I click run. My script has been executed right now, and let's look at my file txt. As you can see in here, I have an hello world and I have a new line here. The printing is successful right now. So we didn't need to a T in here. In Matlab's documentation, it says you need T in here, but right now I didn't need it. Okay, let's clear here and let's run my script again. Yes, it works great. And I open my file. Nothing changed. Why? Because I used a write permission here. If you use a write permission here, that means Matlab will delete everything in your file and print anything that you printed into an empty file. Matlab will act that my file.txt is empty. Why? I used a W, which is write. And if I write here an A, which means append, and if I click run again, this time it will add any printing at the end of our text file. Why? We used append here. Okay, let's run it again, and let's run it again. Right now it will add 2 more hello world. Yes, it's added. Okay, let's close this one and let's change. Let's delete this file from here. Yes, right now I don't have my file txt in my current folder. And if I use that A plus, A will append something at the end of my file txt. But right now I don't have my file txt, and this plus will create a new file. Let's look. Yes, it's run, and my current folder, there is a my file txt, and inside that txt file I have hello world. Okay, let's change the hello world 1 and run it again, and let's change hello world 2 and run it again. If we look our my file txt file, I have one hello world and one hello world 1 and one hello world 2. This is easy. And you can use any formatting operations in here too. For example, let's say if I have a is 5, and if I want to add that variable in here as a decimal, I will use a %d, and right now I will add, I need to add that variable, and I will add semicolon to prevent the echo. If I write here, this time it will print that hello world 5. Let's look our text file. Yes, I have hello world 5. Okay, this is how we write to a text file. But how we read something from a text file? Let's look at it. To read something, I will write it in my command window right now. I need to open a file again. I need to give the name of my file, which is myfile.txt right now, and I need to open that file with permission R, which means I will read that file. So the ID of my file is 3. To read something from my file, I need to use fgets function. The fgets function will read one line from your text, but you need to give here the file ID fgets3. It will get one line from file 3. As you can see, it gets one line. It reads the text until it sees a new line. As you can see, when it saw a new line, it stopped and it returned a hello world. If I use same function again, this time it will return the next line, and if I use it again, it will return next line again. Each time I use that function, it will return a new line. And let's run it again. It returned hello world 5, and if I write it again, this time it will return -1. Why? If we look our my file text, I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 line. I don't have the 5th one. There is nothing in 5. So the first one was hello world. The second one hello world 1, third one hello world 2, and the fourth one was hello world 5, as you can see. But the fifth one is -1. That means it doesn't have anything after this point. And if you want to read anything, if you want to read everything in that file, we can use a while loop. I want to use my script again, and this time I will use the permission R, and Matlab says if you use permission R, you cannot write anything, you cannot print anything to that file. So I will delete here. I will delete my variable here. I don't need that. I will close my file again. Right now I forgot to close my file in here. Let's close. Okay, I closed that, and right now I want to read my file until the end of my file. So I can say here let's read the first line. I can say that line is equal to f gets from the file ID, and I can check in here with while loop while my line is not -1. Here means that while line is not -1, run the quotes below. So I can print it f printf. I don't give any file ID in here, so it will print directly to the command window, and I just want to print my line variable. I can write it directly without using any quote or double quote because the line is already a string, so I can print it directly. And I need to use the next line after I printing the previous line. So line equals f gets file ID. It will read the next line. And let's end our while loop. This loop will work until the line gets -1, which means the end of file. Let's clear our command window and let's run my script. As you can see, it prints each line of my file into the command window until the end of my file txt. And this is the end of this video. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.